guys, how's it going? It's Al. We are back with the week 7 cage match. Last week we had an interruption. There was an internet problem with our guests, so we had to take that week off. So apologies, but we're back here in week 7, and I have with me Rich Hribar, Lord Reeves from the Twitter machine, and Sharp Fantasy Football Analysis is going to join me on the show. An incredibly smart guy when it comes to fantasy football, one of the best minds that exists in the space. We are going to draft 2 teams against each other in the cage using Draftkings salaries. If you are not yet aware of what the cage match is, many of you who are viewers of this channel already know, when you play head-to-heads against somebody on Draftkings, you can have overlap. You can end up with like a 2v2 or a 3v3 if it's a really chalky week, kind of like last week turned out. But the way that we do this in the cage, we're going to have 2 completely unique lineups. So you get a cash game look and thoughts on a bunch of different players at every single position that we are going to choose for our lineups. Rich has chosen to be completely difficult and play for $77.77 in honor of week 7. But there's a multiplier, because for every point that we are differentiated by, if I win by 20, if he wins by 50, whatever it is, we are going to multiply that number by 7 and add that to the pool for the loser to donate to the winner's charity. So thank you guys for being here, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Rich, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, sorry to lay out all that math for you to do.
There's a lot of, I was told there was not going to be any math on today's show, but here we are.
You know what? I brought that out last year where we did the point differential, and you know, everyone seemed to love it. It added a new twist to it just added a new element. So I figured I had to bring it back.
It definitely adds a sweat to the game. First, before I talk about the charities, why don't you tell everybody where they can find all of your great work during fantasy football season?
Yeah, I'm doing everything at sharpfootballanalysis.com. The weekly worksheet is basically where I go and I dig into every game from a matchup stance. I'll give you kind of like the deepest stats I can find to kind of break down the games, make it a little bit different than matchup comms you won't find anywhere else. And then all my stuff is just there. Podcast schedule there. If you hit the Warren Sharps on iTunes or whatever you type in, it's called Sharp Angles. I'm on those shows. I do a rotogrinder show with John Zagel and Dean every Wednesday night as well, where we talk DFS, and that's basically it.
Fantastic. Like I've said, look, we're so busy during football season. I'm so thankful that anybody takes time out of their week to come spend an hour talking about fantasy football with me for this show. So thank you for being here. Rich is going to be playing for the American Red Cross, specifically to help people affected by Hurricane Ian. There will be a link down below in the description that you can click if you wanted to donate money to Rich's cause. If I lose, I will be donating to them, and I will be playing as always for No Kid Hungry, trying to raise money for food insecure kids across America. We are trying to raise $50,000 from our community, and I will be matching every $10,000 up to $50,000, giving us a grand total, hopefully, fingers crossed, of $100,000 raised. Our next match is at $30,000. We're about $28,000 raised right now. So be a part of something bigger than yourself. Smizzle.tv/charity will take you there if you wanted to be a part of our fundraiser. So also, the Smizz Gang Listener League is up for this week. For week 7, $50,000. Absolutely no rake. $10 entry fee. You can get yourself into that one very easily. It is the best tournament that exists on DraftKings. Smizzle.tv/links is the only place you will find the link to the Listener League. It does not exist in the DraftKings lobby. If you're going to go to the DraftKings lobby and say, look for the Smizz Gang Listener League, and then tweet at me, Al, I can't find your Listener League, it's in the links. Smizzle.tv/links. Go there. The cheese is under the sauce. I have the first pick, as you've chosen 2nd and 2. And so I'm going to take Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders, 6,500, going up against Houston, who has been really bad against running backs so far. They're one of the 2 teams that I want to stream running backs against. Most glaringly, for me and Josh Jacobs, A, coming off of bye week, so like at least he's fully rested. B, 16 targets in the last 3 games for Josh Jacobs. I would love to hope, I want to believe that this is going to be just the new way that they are going to use Josh Jacobs, because it is the most fantasy friendly way that anybody could use Josh Jacobs, is A, throwing him the football, and B, playing against the Houston Texans. So like that in combination, and that being 6,500 to me is a plug and play. Rich, do you think that the Raiders are going to continue throwing the football to Josh Jacobs, or are we going to see a return to like weeks 1 and 2 where they threw him the ball twice in those 2 weeks in total?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Josh Jacobs, everyone got kind of freaked out over the summer. First, they bring in Josh McDaniels, who
Mhm.
kind of comes from like that, Patriot lineage of, throwing compartmentalized backs at the wall. Then he's what starts in the Hall of Fame game. Everyone loses their mind. Like there's a collective tilt, like, oh my God, the Raiders don't want this guy. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option.
That was the key
Uh,
for me. Them not extending his contract and Kenyon Drake and being with a new regime and having a young, talented rookie behind him. I was like, maybe they're going to phase this dude out if they start losing games and
Yep.
see what they have in Zamir White down the stretch.
Yeah, and then what the thing is though is they didn't really bring in a lot of talented players. Obviously you bring in Brandon Bolden, who's been like a career special teams guy. He's moonlit on the field a little bit as a pass catcher and passing downs, but he's largely just been a special teamer his entire career. They bring in Amir Abdullah, who had like a little bit of cup of tea with the Panthers at the end of last year and caught some passes, but like not very good players.
Right.
So Josh Jacobs quickly dispatched to those guys early in the season, or they dispatched themselves, and the Raiders just said like, we should probably just get these guys off the field. And here we are now, 6 weeks through the season and 5 weeks for the Raiders because they had a bye. And Josh Jacobs has had 83.1% of the backfield touches for the Raiders. Only Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley have accounted for a higher share of their team's touches. And if you guys follow Al, you got to check those boxes, baby. All the boxes are being checked for Josh Jacobs right now, and you get him as a huge home favorite against this just deplorable Texans defense that we've attacked with running backs the last 2 years. Josh Jacobs was very high on my list. I was going to see if you were going to go there, start it off, to see how you start it, because this is an interesting week because we haven't got a lot of clear value right now. Like there aren't
You
like a
never
bunch
do
of
on Wednesday. That's
Yep.
the thing. So like I felt that he was the number one value on the board. There's obviously other players that are projecting pretty well right now, but I'm going to kick this over to you for two. You have your two picks. So I've got him. I like you said, we'll find value as the week goes on. Like Friday, when players aren't practicing on Friday and they're ruled out, you get extreme values, guys that are 4,500 and below every single week because injuries are a part of the game and it's a next man up sport. But on Wednesday, for this kind of first look at cash, now that we have a little bit of context for the week, where are you going to go?
Yeah, so you took a running back off the board. There are a bunch of running backs still here that I can go to. Let's see how we want to play this. Let's start with Kenneth Walker. We'll go with Kenneth Walker at 5,800. Still probably way too cheap, although, listen, DraftKings hasn't priced Breece Hall up either for like the last month. And
They've been weird with certain salaries.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett was basically the same price for a month. And then everyone finally got cookie jarred on that last week.
And then he's still the same price this week because he finally had a bad week.
Right. Breece Hall's just been like floating like 58 to 62 every week, but I'm going to save a little bit. I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker here. We saw him last week. The Seahawks in general played like a vintage Seahawks game, right? With like running ball and defense last week. We don't want to see a lot of that going like any further, but 23 touches, 110 yards and a touchdown. He had 92% of the backfield touches. Is the highest rate of all running backs in week 6. We saw what he is. He's a huge play guy, right? Like this is what he was at Michigan State. This is what he's going to be. He's going to be one of these guys who can just like get like 3 yards a carry for a dozen carries and then break off like a 40 or 50 yarder. That's kind of what happened last week. The Chargers, they're allowing a league high 5.8 yards per carry to running backs. 60% of the rushing yardage they've allowed this season have come on explosive carries, gains of 10 or more yards. It's 31st in the NFL. And 68% of the rushing yards gained by Seattle has come on those explosive carries, the highest rate in the league. So I'm going to take the little bit of salary with Kenneth Walker here. He's probably not going to catch a lot of passes for me, but just a guy I think that's going to be he'll probably be a cash game staple for a lot of people this week. And then let's run it back here let's go with CeeDee Lamb at 6,800. You look at Dallas, and I'm counting on Dak being back. If Dak's not back, this doesn't look as good. But I'm counting on Dak being back, from weeks 2 through 6, when the Cowboys had Cooper Rush, starting. They were 8% below pass rate expectation. I think with Dak Prescott, it's going to really open up some things for them to get back to throwing the football. And what that really is going to highlight is CeeDee Lamb. And you look at CeeDee Lamb, he is now being targeted on 33% of the Dallas targets. That leads the entire NFL, but it hasn't really popped yet because he's playing with Cooper Rush and this offense is not throwing the football. He's had at least 26.8% of the team targets in every game this season. He's been targeted on 31% of his routes. That's 4th in the league. So when he starts to run more routes, that's going to pop and be highlighted even more. He's also being used creatively by Kellen Moore. He's nearly a 50-50 player inside and outside, 57% snaps outside, 42% in the slot. Detroit is allowing 9.5 yards per target to opposing boundary wide receivers. That's 24th in the league, but they've been primarily roasted in the slot. Obviously, everyone's been following Jeffrey Okudah, and he got all that run when they shut down Justin Jefferson week 2. But they're allowing a 91% catch rate to wide receivers out of the slot, 11.6 yards per target to opposing wide receivers out of the slot. That's the highest in the league. So I'm counting on Dak coming back to elevate the passing game from a volume stance, and all that target share, all that juicy kind of under the hood stuff we look at CeeDee Lamb. I'm looking for that to kind of pop here in this potential shootout with the Lions.
I mean, he got a ton of looks with Cooper Rush at quarterback anyway. So like volume over everything for me, especially at wide receiver, and to get a guy that projects to get 10 targets regardless of who is going to be the quarterback. Obviously, I would rather have Dak Prescott be the quarterback than Cooper Rush, but a solid 2 picks there to start you off. Coming back to me, there's a lot of ways that I can go. Oh, all right. I'm just going to take Leonard Fournette. I mean, the Bucs are fair. They can't be this bad, Rich. It's not possible. Like, look, I think that the Giselle is a witch narrative is squarely in play. There's got to be some reality to that. She is certainly making some things happen with voodoo dolls and Tom Brady, and she's got to put the dolls away at some point. But in spite of all the nonsense going on in Tom's personal life, Leonard Fournette has played exceptionally well. And they are massive favorites here, once again, against Carolina in Carolina. And Leonard Fournette, they are trying to scale back his usage, but last week he still played like 85% of the snaps, got 85% of the running back. So if they spell him with Rachaad White, it's not hurting his opportunities, with 27 of them last week, 25 the week before, and so much value with his targets because 28 of them in the last 3 games that the Buccaneers have played, with a touchdown reception in each of those 3 weeks. I'm going to pay $7,700 here for Fournette because the floor is basically like 12 or 14 points, regardless of whether they win or whether they, if she finds some other spell with some bubble toils and trouble and finds a way to put another hex on Tom that keeps this offense from scoring. But like, he seems to be a game flow independent running back who also should be scoring points when they get inside the 5-yard line, if they ever get inside the 5-yard line. So give me the floor with Fournette and the touchdown upside as well, with the Buccaneers having one of the higher team totals on the slate, even though this game has a really lower team total overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Panthers. Panthers are going to do that too. Anytime you face the Panthers, they just don't run any offensive plays, so the game total is going to get kind of dragged into the abyss with it. Leonard Fournette caught a touchdown past 3 games. First Buccaneer running back in team history to do that. That's great. You get those receptions because the Bucs have really struggled to run the football. A lot of people talked about their offensive line issues and how it's going to impact Tom Brady. But listen, Tom Brady's a robot. He gets rid of the ball at the fastest rate in the NFL. He doesn't get pressured himself because of the way he structurally plays quarterback. But where they have struggled is, running the football. That's where that offensive line has kind of showed up. But Leonard Fournette is just getting there through the air repeatedly every week. So I love that one too. I'm going to directly try to go against you in that same game and go with Chris Godwin.
Ooh. Challenge pick.
Hopefully I can take away from you. But Godwin, we saw him last weekend, another 12 targets, 95 yards. He just hasn't gotten the box yet. His 32% team target share was the highest since he came back in the field. He ran a route on 93% of the team dropbacks. And the Panthers are one of these teams that are pretty good against boundary wide receivers, but I'm getting crushed by wide receivers in the slot. They're 30th in PPR points allowed per game, 2 wide receivers in the slot. So I'm kind of using that a little bit to the theme here to build this, but I'm going to go with Godwin.
All right, fair enough. He's been really solid. Well, I like guys that can pay off, that can get you those 15 points per game without scoring touchdowns, right? So like, I want those high volume running backs in the passing game. I want receivers that get flooded with targets because your floor becomes so much better. And then if they have one of those games where they score a couple touchdowns, it puts you in much better shape moving forward. Let's see, where can I go? I don't know where to go with this pick. So like, I think I need to pick a wide receiver. I think I need to get a high volume wide receiver, and you
could try not to play any wide receivers. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, if I could go with a 0 wide receiver, I need like the most high T, robust running back lineup that I could possibly get. At least I have pass catching running backs. but I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. I'm going right back to the well here at 5,800. This is my reverse challenge to your initial challenge. Coming off of a 3.7 fantasy point day against Arizona, now squares off against the Los Angeles Chargers, who ran 1 million plays last week and threw the most pass attempts without throwing a touchdown ever in like the history of the league. So like kudos to them for pulling that off on like 4 average yards per target. Seattle is going to be chasing in this game, in my opinion. It is the highest totaled game on the slate at 52. Chargers favored by 7. And the Seahawks going to have to play from behind if things go according to plan and on the road, which to me means Tyler Lockett has that solid floor. He had 5 targets last week. He had 6 targets the week before. I think that he's going to get greater than 7 targets this week, which for 5,800 is more than enough against a, I don't know how to put it, sloppy Chargers D. Like, are they the most injured team in the league year in, year out?
It's just crazy how it just always seems to find them. You know, because you always come into the year and you're like, people are like, oh, I'll never pick the Chargers. It's like, well, what happened to the Chargers 6 years ago has nothing to do with this team. But then like it just keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean, when you hire a team doctor with a last name of Stabby Lung, expect your players to get hurt. It's just the way that it goes. I'm gonna lock it here.
Those are always the weirdest things, because like you see stuff like where the Colts are like, well, the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville in 8 years, and it's like, well, what does that team in 2015 have to do with anything with the team that's playing this weekend? And then it just happens again.
And
like,
so like my stat of the week, I don't know if you saw it yesterday on Twitter, was in Tom Brady's last 4 games against teams with cat logos, he's averaging 312 passing yards with 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. They play the Panthers this week.
Yeah, respect it.
Yeah. All right, kick it back to you off of the cat logo narrative.
All right, so we don't have a lot of value on this slate open, right? Like there are like no like real cheap like 3K wide receivers, right? Because we probably would have picked one.
I mean, not right now there aren't, but it doesn't mean that there won't be somewhere down the week. But like right now, like it's thin down there.
Yeah, when we run into like Mac Hollins or something again later in the week.
That was a glorious week. Mac Hollins' week was great.
I mean, he'll go down further. Like Mac Hollins never has to do a damn thing the rest of his career, but like every person is going to know Mac Hollins that plays fantasy football because of that week. Like,
yes,
he's a legend.
He is a cult hero at this point.
So I'm going to try to free up some salary here for the rest of the way here. I'm going to go with Alec Pierce.
I was kind of hoping to snag him.
Yeah, so I'm going to go here and lock this up because I don't want you to take him, and then I have to like go down on salary.
He's been solid.
Yeah, he's been really solid. He's earning targets. He's still playing behind Paris Campbell in 2 wide receiver sets, but we saw a couple of things from the Colts, and I don't think the initial one will be sticky, so they get Jonathan Taylor back. They won't operate their offense this way, but they were aggressive in terms of pass rate over expectation last week. They went with like a really hyper aggressive approach. Short passing game was kind of at the forefront, and they moved the football and they scored points. I mean, so of course an NFL coach is probably gonna look at that and be like, all right, well, let's not do that again. But if you look at it, so Alec Pierce, why I like him in this particular matchup outside of that, he's just been solid. He plays 94% of his snaps out wide. He did have 4 for 80 when these 2 teams played a week ago, but Tennessee is the worst perimeter defense to boundary wide receivers, allowing a league high 12.1 yards per target to wide receivers that play on the boundary and 16.3 yards per catch to boundary wide receiver. So I think that we're going to be looking at a situation where I can just hit one long ball and I can get there, or just Pierce continues to grow and he gets there. Because he has been just kind of in like that George Pickens this kind of way, like kind of gotten there on his own regardless. So I'll just lock in his salary and see what I can do the rest of the way.
Okay, that's fair.
I have 3 wideouts.
What's that?
I said I got 3 wideouts.
You got 3. You could still pick a 4th. There's ways that you can go. You have outs. I have few outs, I think. I don't know. I'm not going to say that I've backed myself into a corner. I don't think that I have. Like, I don't know if I could fit. There's one guy that I really want, but I'm not sure that I could fit him. And like, I think that there's kind of 2 ways to go this week. I'm going to gamble. I could either gamble on this or just go for the knockout punch. But I'm not sure if I can afford the knockout punch is really the problem.
Just take Derrick Henry.
He's so good. How, like, if they... For years, Rich, I have been begging that they just throw him 1 screen pass every quarter. That's it. Every quarter, you're going to get a possession. Nobody's going to hold the ball for 15 minutes. So every time you get the ball in the first quarter, you must throw 1 screen pass per possession. If it's 3rd and 15 and you have not run a screen pass to Derrick Henry, you have to throw the screen pass to Derrick Henry. And then Do it again in the second quarter. Do it again in just make sure that at least one pass goes. If you do that,
Just
you're
one.
unbeatable. And then the last 3 weeks that they've thrown him a bunch of targets, he's had over a 20-yard reception each time. Because guess what? It freaking works. So like if they're going to throw him the ball 4 times a game, he becomes just an absolute monster that is entirely playable at all times. You know?
Yeah, and they really struggle to run the football because I mean this offensive line has lost a ton of people, and they lost Taylor Lewan to start the year. And I think they did a really good job of just using it to like circumvent some of the run game stuff that they had issues with. Just to get Derrick Henry the football in a different way and let him, like you said, like a DB is not coming up to tackle him. Like there's no 6 foot, 195-pound cornerback that's coming to tackle Derrick Henry. So,
Ever.
I mean,
the last one who tried was Norman.
Josh Norman.
He got spiked. So I'm not after all that Derrick Henry talk, I'm not going to pick Derrick Henry in this spot. But I felt that it was necessary because of how good a play he is this week. I don't know if I want 2 guys from the game. This sucks. This absolutely kind of sucks at this point. All right, I'm gonna take another wide receiver. I'm gonna take a wide receiver. I may have to go with the 2 tight end build on this team just to kind of make things work the way that I want them to work. All right, I'm gonna do it for the narrative. Rich, over the summer, you were the one that introduced my community and myself to Romeo Doubs. He is 5K. He is getting a lot of targets, even though I'm on team elite wide receiver at this point over elite quarterback. I think that, look, if you can have both, obviously have both. But right now, I think that Aaron Rodgers is still an elite level quarterback, being off the back-to-back MVP years, but he's not getting very much help on the outside. However, volume over everything, and in 3 of the last 4 games, Doubs has seen 8 or more targets, with week 5 against the Giants being the only exception to that. At some point, he is going to connect on a higher catch percentage. He caught all 8 of 8 against Tampa Bay, and then 5 of 8 against New England, only 4 of 8 against the Jets. But tougher coverage against the Jets than he's going to see against Washington. So I would expect that if the targets remain the same, his catch percentage will rise this weekend. So I think Doubs is a good bounce back play. His salary's gone up from 45, 49, 48 up to 5,000, but not up enough to keep him out of the range of value right now. So it's mid-range value, but at least it's solid for the amount of targets that I expect headed his way from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we gotta love that call. We had to bring Romeo Doubs back with me.
There was no chance he was going undrafted this week in this particular cage match.
Yeah, I love the matchup. He's running a ton of routes. I mean, he's been on the field for basically 93% of Aaron Rodgers' dropbacks. So you get that matchup, that sweet matchup against the Commanders, who it seems like the Commanders just like there's a guy running free like 30 yards downfield, well, at least once per game, sometimes multiple times per game against them. Last week it was Dante Pettis, but yeah, they love giving up just like uncovered like vertical balls.
It's like their favorite thing. It's like as though they were paid to do it that way.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I've got I think I'm gonna swerve into saving salary again, and I'm gonna try to skate to where I believe the puck is going this week. I'm gonna take K. Dotton.
Oh, that was the guy. So I said I don't want to have 2 Buccaneers. I was like, I don't want to have 2 guys in this game.
Well, I was waiting to see if you were gonna pay up for a tight end, but I don't think you are now at this point, based on what you've paid for so far. Yeah. So now that I know that I'm not going to get dragged into the depths of hell by Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce, I feel like it's all right that like I could take a shot at K-Dot. Cameron Brate had the scary injury last week, checked out fine, got to fly back home with the team. I still would be surprised if he ends up playing this week. He didn't practice today, and we're recording this on Wednesday, so we'll see what happens. Last time that Brate was out 2 weeks ago, K. Dotton ran a pass route on 92% of Brady's dropbacks. He had 7 targets for 43 yards. Obviously, that's not going to like win me anything here, but at 2,700, we'll just throw that at the wall and see if I can run into like a 6 for 40 again. I'd gladly take that.
6 for 40 at 2,700 is more than solid, right? Like people don't want to think about it that way. Now, if Brate plays, now it's a situation where you may get like 1 or 2 targets in this spot. So like there's a risk here.
Yep.
But I don't think it's an absolute massive risk. I would always rather take a chance on extreme basement value with the potential to get some targets or catches, right? Whether it's a wide receiver that's 3K, 3,300, somewhere in that range, a tight end that's 3,300 and down, because if they miss, assuming like 150 points is going to win you more cage matches, more cash games than it's going to lose you, if he gets like 4 points this week, right? That puts you in a situation where you missed, let's say you missed value, right? By 5 points. It's way better than having a 7K wide receiver who gets you 8 points, who missed value by 13 points. So like your misses are small, but your wins can be massive with a K dot and with a 3K wide. Like we talked about Mac Hollins before, somebody like that, where like your misses are going to be small, but your wins can be really big.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Coming back, he was the guy that I was just talking about. I got a Buccaneer. I don't want to have another Buccaneer in a 40-point total game. So I got 5K salary remaining. I have a lot of money. Now it's a question of which direction I go here. You took a tight end. I can take a tight end. I think
you take two.
I think there's a lot of ways. You have a flex, but like there's so many ways to go this week, you know? And like no extreme value has opened up to make it necessary, let's say, to go in that direction, right? So I'm kind of tempted to take a shot on somebody that I think could be a really big payoff. And that shot's going to be on Michael Gallup. Going against Detroit's defense, Gallup, 7 targets against Philadelphia. I've spoken all year about how Philadelphia is a box score that I'm willing to throw out pretty much all the time. They're just too good defensively. Bringing in Bradbury to go opposite Slay has put them in a just tremendous situation defensively, because I set them on team elite wide receiver. My philosophy is that if you have that elite alpha on one side and then you have somebody else who would be an alpha or projects as one without him on the other, like a T. Higgins is your number 2, Devontae Smith is your number 2, Jalen Waddle is your number 2. Every one of them has somebody that eats up a cover-ish corner who can be beaten, right? Like by other alphas that are out there in the league. Having Godwin when you have Mike Evans on the outside. That's the new way to win in the NFL offensively. So Philadelphia just eats that up by having Bradbury opposite Slay. So now they get to go up against Detroit, who has neither, and has given up like 27 real life points to literally everybody that they've played against this season. And I'm hoping that Dak Prescott is back. So this is a bit of a projection play for me, projecting that Dak, off of the 50 throws that he reportedly threw last week in warmups that had no dip in velocity, everything was right where it needed to be. I'm projecting Dak to be in the lineup this week, and if he is in, I think that Michael Gallup takes a big step forward here at 5,100. So give me him with the expected 6-7 targets, in my opinion, coming from Dak Prescott being greater than the same coming from a Cooper Rush.
I mean, also a challenge pick on CD. You know?
Yeah, we're all about it this week.
Yeah,
this is a full-on pain week in the cage.
Yeah, I mean, what you love about Gallup since he come back is that like he really hasn't been nursed along. I mean, he's run a route on 72 of 86 team dropbacks since he's come back, and that was kind of the thing. Is like, is he going to come back and for like a month just play like 30% of the snaps, right? Like he's been out there, and like we said earlier when we were talking about CD, like if Dak comes back and this turns into a more aggressive offense, because they basically were just hiding Cooper Rush, and they could because they didn't play any opponents that made them pass during that stretch while Cooper Rush was playing. You know, you get all the tides get lifted here. I even think the running backs here, which, you know, we won't touch on because maybe one will get picked, but they're in play too. And obviously, then the Lions have been the carnival team, right? Like every matchup against the Lions,
they're so good offensively and they're so bad on defense.
Yeah, the Patriots game was kind of the only one because they didn't do their part, but like all the Lions were dead that game.
Yeah, they didn't have anybody out there like that. That's not the Carney's fault. Right. There just were no funnel cakes to be served. They were out of funnel cakes that week.
Yeah, I mean, they had no attractions. There was no attractions there. They all got, you know, sideswiped on the road. They weren't able to make it to the destination.
They smelled like cabbage, small hands. It was the way that it was.
Yeah, the only person that made it there was the lion tamer with Jared Goff, but no one else. You know, it's like the only person. Like, yeah,
exactly.
Just disgusting. All right, I don't know. Now I freed up on the salary. I was kind of seeing where I wanted to go with it here. I was hoping you'd make it a little bit easier on me, but you've also gone the cheaper route too since then. What do I want to lock in here?
Talk yourself through this. This is a tough week. The buys have really made this week tough. First of all, screw the NFL scheduler who took the Bills, Vikings, Eagles, and Rams off of this slate. Like all at the same time. What are you doing and why? It's not like, okay, well, it's just, you know, like it used to be like certain divisions would be off on bye week, right? It's like, okay, the NFC East, it's their bye week, or the AFC West, it's their bye week. They just took the four of the best teams. They took the Josh Allen and Diggs off the slate. They took Justin Jefferson and the fighting Kirk Cousins off the slate. They took the Jalen Hurts amazing monstrosity of an offense off the slate, and they took the Cooper Kupps off the slate. This sucks.
Yeah. It's absolutely disgusting. And what's crazy is like the meta this year has been kind of just to pay for Josh Allen no matter what his salary is.
Oh, if you can get Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp in your cash game lineup, just pay for them.
Yeah. I joked, I said the week ago, I was like, Josh Allen should be 9.5 on Draftkings and he should be over 10 on FanDuel. And until they do that, like there's no reason not to just start every week putting him in your lineup because he's outscoring all the other quarterbacks by so many points.
Can I just tell you how much of an idiot I am for a second, Rich? This is like my confession. Is a safe space. We're in the trust tree. So like 2 years ago, I said on 0600 with Mike Clay, I was like, Mike, we talk about all the, and Dop, I was like, we talk about all these tournament plays and stacks. It's like, why am I not just stacking Josh Allen 150 times in the Millionaire Maker every single week? He scores 30 points at least 8 weeks a year. He's averaging over 30 points this year.
Right.
Like, why am I not doing that? I'm such an idiot. It sucks. I hate that. It sucks to suck. What else can you say?
Yeah, so that kind of puts me in the spot here to try to figure out what I want to do. What is it? I'll tell you what. I'm still going to kick the can on this. Let's see, because I feel like I'm flexible and I have a lot of options.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take the Jets.
All right. The defense. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to take the Jets.
I was like, you can't have all of the Jets offensive players. That's not how the cage works.
I mean, there's only one good one right now anyways. So
they definitely aren't throwing the football.
I don't only be getting points from one guy anyways. But yeah, I'm just going to lock up the Jets. Basically, Russell Wilson's been trashed. That offense has been trashed. And if Russell Wilson doesn't play, it'll be Brett Rypien. And I guess you can say it can't be worse. But did anyone watch Phillip Walker last week and the offense that the Panthers tried to run? Like, it can always be worse still.
You just threw a nugget out there that I was not aware of. Is Russ not going to play?
Yeah. So he's going through the hamstring. He had MRI last night. And there's whispers that it might be more severe, and this could be a thing like when when a starting pitcher gets like rocked like 3 starts in a row.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, I bet that dude's going on the DL.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that's what they might be trying to
sit down and reflect for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
I feel like this might be a Russell situation. Like, oh, he's got an elbow injury or something. So they might swerve into this hamstring injury thing for a little bit.
We have a friend that we used to play basketball every week, as young men do. We'd play every weekend. Every time he'd miss a shot, he'd shoot a lot of threes. Every time he'd miss a shot, only when he'd miss though. If he made it, no arm trouble. Every time he'd miss, ooh, yeah, I think I strained my bicep. That's Russ right now. Every time he throws an inaccurate pass, and he's thrown more inaccurate passes this year at a higher percentage than he's ever thrown at any point in his career. Right now, every time he throws an inaccurate pass, that's all I'm thinking about. Like, he's just like, ooh, yeah, ooh, this shoulder.
Yeah, it's LeBron always checks his nose. LeBron's never been bleeding from his nose in the history of his 20-year career, but every time he's checking his nose.
Every time he misses a layup, right? Like he goes, he drives it, he gets hit. So like, I'm not like falling, like he goes in, he gets hit, and he's like doing it for the referee. They got me. Ref, you didn't see that? All right, Jets defense for you. You have a robust $7,000 per player remaining. I have $4,900 remaining. Oh, this puts there's a play that I was going to make. There's a play, and see, like, now I don't know the disinformation. There's 2 plays at tight end that are good value right now. Okay, I'll name both of them because you took a tight end. There's 2 plays that are ridiculous value. One, Evan Engram and his horrible headshot here.
Revenge game, Evan Engram.
In a sick revenge game against the Giants, right? 16 targets the last two games that they've played. 3,300. He is really, really solid. Okay. The other one is the man who looks like, why can't I find him? The man who looks like he's gonna play the pan flute. He looks like his mentor was Zamfir, and that's Greg Dulcich, who made his debut, caught a touchdown on 3 targets. He was the guy that they have wanted to be the man at tight end, but then he got hurt through preseason. Now, if they're going to send Russ to the sidelines in this spot, we know how, and like the other spot being the Jets are so good outside with Sauce, right? And you know his name, but I always forget the guy on the other side. Who's their other cornerback?
DJ Reed.
like one of the top 5 PFF graded cornerbacks of the year. I should put some respect and learn his name, but I'm terrible with names. But like their cornerback play has been outstanding, right? But like this cat has like fantastic hair.
Amazing hair.
And
he looks like Indigo Montoya.
Yeah,
Indigo Montoya.
He's definitely Indigo Montoya. Yeah. So like it's the same situation to the Cade Otton play, where he does not have to do all that much, right? Does not have to score a touchdown. If he gets 4 catches for 40 yards, Dayenu, it's more than enough at that point. And it allows me to do a couple of other things, saves me a little bit of money. I am scared now though, Rich. You've officially scared me with the Russ Wilson Maidal injury of the week, dealing with the shoulder injury that he can't throw the ball anymore. But like I'm gonna go with Dulcich at 2,500. I think he's fine. I think Evan Ingram's fine. This just opens up a little bit more money for me. I have 17,000 remaining for a quarterback, a flex, and a defense, which means that I have at least 14,400 to see if I can make this work.
Yeah, I love Dulcich coming out. He is my tight end 1 in this class over Trey McBride, who a lot of people had 1. I mean, he's just a vertical, he's a vertical target. He had the 3rd most targets in this class, including wide receivers on routes 10 or more yards downfield. That's kind of his game. That's what he does. He gets up in those seam shot plays. I will tell you, I wasn't going to tell you who to pick, but really the biggest pro there is that you just didn't take Evan Ingram, right? Like the biggest pro for Greg Dulcich is just not Evan Ingram. So I think
like
you made
everybody
the right
hates
choice.
on Evan Ingram, but like I think that they're utilizing. I get it, and like I've been on that train a ton. Like just don't pick Ingram, but like they were utilizing him so poorly in Dallas, right? That like I'm really happy that for him personally that they are actually deploying him in a manner that is more suited to his actual skill set.
Yeah, the Jaguars are an interesting team. This offense is like, it's just such a pop gun offense.
It's a roller coaster too.
Yeah, well,
he's going to complete 95% of his passes or 40% of his passes, and then 85% and then 50.
Yeah, they are. They just, everything's so short with them always. Everything's just so, and that's what's kind of, I think, has led into some of the variance they've experienced at the start of the year. It's just everything's just near the line of scrimmage. Like the Jaguars have no shot plays. They have no shot play wide receivers. I mean, everything's going to Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram. And, that's how you see like the laid out from Trevor Lawrence. The completion percentage looks great because he's only throwing the ball 6 yards downfield at a time. But they need to generate some big plays for sure in that passing game.
So the last 2 years, Rich, me, and JJ Zachariason have convened in February to talk about the prospects at running back and wide receiver coming into the draft. I'm sure that we will be talking about some wide receivers that the Jacksonville Jaguars should be drafting for their young offense around this Trevor Lawrence offense. But I digress. Moving on, back to your pick. You have $1 million remaining for 3 spots.
Yeah, so I'm just debating what I want to do with this. So there's 2 builds I could go with, and one involves a high-priced quarterback and one doesn't.
Okay, talk me through it.
So I'm debating because we said like the meta this season has been to play basically Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts providing all this leverage over the field. They're not on this slate. We've got Lamar and we've got Patrick Mahomes. Like, do I try to get one of these guys? Because we've seen like this paying down at quarterback really hasn't worked out at all for like over the weeks. We tried to make Tom Brady work the last couple of weeks. The touchdowns haven't been there. Brady's thrown for 350 yards in both these games. He's getting you the bonus on DK, but like these guys are scoring 30 and 35s. Like your 20s not good enough anymore. And that used to be not the case on DraftKings, right? You go back a couple years ago, it's like, I'll pay for this $5,500 quarterback. I'm going to probably have a good shot at the bonus. I'll take my 20 points, walk away from the table because I'm jamming in Todd Gurley or Christian McCaffrey or, whatever, guy is popping off at the RB1 spot that season. But this year, it's been really hard to do that. It's been really hard to just say, I'm going to take my 20 points at quarterback, move away from the table, because those front-end quarterbacks are getting 35 points. And yeah, so do I try to take one of these guys this week and make you have to pay down and just hope your 20 is good enough this week? Or do I just go with like some more stud plays otherwise and end up paying for another cheaper quarterback? So that's the spot I'm in right now. What do I want to do? How will we play it?
You got a running back, a quarterback, and a flex.
Yes. So I think I am going to, I'm just running this like, spinning in my head because obviously this next pick dictates what I'm going to do the rest of the way now. I was hoping you would have taken a quarterback by now. Just to make it easy on me.
I was consciously not picking a quarterback.
No, I know. So let's do I don't think you can take either guy. Let me just double check my salary here. Everyone's favorite part of the podcast. Ooh, the guys on the screen trying to figure something out.
This is the hardest part because, like, quarterback, I think that there's a couple of routes that you can go and then they dictate the other plays that you're going to make, right? So, like, if you take one of the quarterbacks, then it makes my route a little bit easier everywhere else. If you take, you know, your running back here, or if you take a wide receiver, it kind of dictates where else I can go. I've got the flex play remaining, which makes things a little bit different. So, like, you have to take a running back at some point. I could take one off the board for you. And, like, I can just wait on defense. And, like, defense matters, but, like, it doesn't matter all that much, right? It's just so highly variant that it makes it weird, you know? Like, who's to say that the lowest priced defenses can't do well? We saw it last week with Carolina against the Rams in a game where they lost by 14. We saw it with the Falcons, who's just not a great defense at all, but they ended up winning that game. And against Jimmy G, they scored a touchdown. Like, you could pay down at defense, you could pay up, whatever. You know, there's a lot of unpredictability based on the event-based scoring on how defense is actually ceiling.
All right, so I'm going to take a running back. And that running back will be Saquon Barkley.
Who has been, he was like one of my flag plants during draft season.
Easy. Do you remember third round Saquon Barkley?
It was the greatest time.
It was the best of times.
Yes. Like, I was, so many of my drafts this year centered around Leonard Fournette at the back end of the second round, or Mark Andrews at the back end of the second round, and then Saquon Barkley in the third.
Do you know how many teams I built at the front when I had a round or a first or second pick getting Jonathan Taylor and then running it back with Saquon thinking I had the week 17 nuts? Sadness, just darkness because of what's happened to Jonathan Taylor. But Saquon was such an easy pick in the third round, like auto selection every time for that run. And then you end up getting up eventually, like in FFPC when we were doing main events, like he was in the back of the first round. But
as August rolled along and he was not getting hurt in preseason, he kind of kept creeping up into like 11, I think was where his finishing ADP was, 10.5 or 11 on Underdog.
But it was amazing. We were just getting him in the third round. I just remember every draft, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing in the third round. Like Saquon, every pick.
Every single time.
Yeah, I'll take him. I'm a little nervous about the shoulder. He did come out of the game a little bit with the shoulder last week, that stinger. But he's just getting the ball so much. And I like him in this spot because the Jaguars have really been bad against running backs out of the backfield. They're 31st in receiving points allowed per game to running backs. And we know, like, Saquon, it doesn't matter, like, what he does rushing because they're just going to keep giving the football, right? Like, he can have 20 carries for 1 yard a pop, and they're still going to give it to him and just hope he hits that 40-yarder because that's their entire offense right now. It's like, when is Saquon going to make a big play? That's when the game will turn for us, when Saquon picks a big play. I
mean, at some point, they can't keep getting away with this.
No.
Right?
But I have a hard time believing the Jaguars are going to flood them. Like, I think that they'll hang around here, be at least around just to give Saquon the football a lot. If not, I believe he's going to get a bunch of dump offs anyways. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the Giants are probably the worst 5-1 team ever, right?
I mean, that's where you guys at Sharp Football Analysis specialize, right? You guys are good at digging into all of the minutia around, like, these are the 5-1 teams historically, and these are the worst ones, right? So, like, that's where you guys really knock it out of the park. So, like, I can't, like, they got to be on the list, though. At worst, they're one of the worst 5 of all time. Maybe 3. And it's because of the wide receivers. They're getting a lot out of Daniel Jones, right? He's like middle of the pack in terms of quarterback efficiency, something he's always really struggled with. And that says a lot about the coach and the scheme that they're using, which matters a ton in the NFL. Coach and scheme can change things. However, he's not working with anything on the outside that can make them effective. And like you said, they rely on Saquon breaking off like a 40-yard play. And he's done it every game because he's really good at football.
Yep, 100%. Giants, and they're a good story. I don't want to, if anyone's a Giants fan in chat or watching this, like, enjoy it. Like, enjoy this. Feel great. You're in great hands. Dayball looks like he absolutely knows what he's doing.
He's a stud. We knew that. He is who we thought he was.
Gem.
But, like, Giants fans, put some respect on our team. You're disrespecting our team. It's like, no, we're not disrespecting your team. We're just saying you have no wide receivers.
The one thing that and I don't want to put this on them, but the one thing is you don't want to have the Giants to do is they outkick their coverage so far that they put themselves in a box where they like are forced to give like Daniel Jones an extension.
For like Daniel Jones gets 4 years, 25-30 million a year, and they
you can extend
sign him for a
if
reason.
you want to give
and they were
Saquon
hoping
a small deal. If you want to give Saquon a small deal, fine, but like don't go crazy. Don't.
You know
like
they're
the
not
first
gonna.
team.
They're gonna sign Saquon to an Ezekiel Elliott deal, then they're gonna sign Daniel Jones for 4 years, and then they're gonna draft another 5'8" wide receiver with no hamstrings.
Let's hope not, man.
let's hope not. All right, so you get Barkley. You still have $1 million remaining. You have
I drafted. Well, I only put bad players on my team up to this point. So,
so then you finally go. Well, no, CeeDee Lamb's not a bad player. Chris Godwin's not a bad player. Alex Pierce has been solid. Kate Otten has a name that makes me think about otters, and otters are really cool. So like,
I'd agree. I think otters are very underrated animals.
They're kind of jackasses though, from everything.
They are. I mean, they're stinkers, man.
They're kind of the worst. They're
little trolls.
They're absolutely like the worst. So you had already mentioned it. I could go two ways with this. I'm just gonna take Lamar Jackson.
All right.
I'm not going to banter about it. I'm just going to take Lamar Jackson. 1 touchdown through the air each of the last 3 weeks. I kind of think that changes against Cleveland. Elite quarterback has been the way to go in fantasy this year, but elite quarterback has been the way to go because of the elite wide receivers other than on the outside, giving them the access to massive games. I love the fact that we typically want to attack Cleveland on the ground, but we're dealing with a 3-headed monster of the Gus Bus, Kenyon Drake, and a recovering J.K. Dobbins, which just means that I think that they're going to have to lean on Lamar Jackson to do the things that they want to do. They have lost 2 of their last 3 games, going with the non-threatening offense. Bateman is back in practice today at least, so I think that he's actually one of the keys to this offense. They never went out and got another guy. They finally signed Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson.
Is that good?
Probably it hasn't worked out for the most recent teams.
It's not like it used to be a great thing, but like at this point it's like, all right, fine, at least there's a warm body on the other side. But having Bateman back really changes their prospects through the air, and that is a boon for Lamar Jackson. So give me him at 8K. I'll figure it out. I have 9,400 left, which is more than enough with the defenses that are on the board that I can use to cut salary, and then get me to something. Right? Like that's really all that I need. Just get me to something so that then I can have the flex.
Yeah, so that scares me a little bit because now that I went this direction with Saquon, it meant that I was going to be paying down at quarterback a little bit from Mahomes because I had a stack for that Chiefs 49ers game, and I'm going in a different direction. And I'm going to tack Joe Mixon onto this team.
He's a good player.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been the greatest player this year.
That's not his fault.
I mean, obviously everyone will cite the expected points, but what we saw from the Bengals is they've started to adjust now. They were trying to figure out what they wanted to be offensively to get teams to come out of this like too high shell, right? So they started this transition in the middle of this, not middle of the season, well, the middle of the section of the season that we've completed to this point. And they tried to do like more under center game, right? To get teams to come out of too high stuff, make it look like they were wanted to run the football a little bit more. But then they realized like, we're just not really good at running the football that way. We should not do this anymore. And they finally got religion on it last week. 96% of their snaps were out of shotgun last week. That's the way they should be doing it. 22 of Mixon's carries the past 2 games. 20 of his 22 carries have come out of shotgun. He's averaging 6.2 yards per carry out of shotgun, 3.3 yards for contact before he gets hit on those carries running out of shotgun right now. The Atlanta Falcons are 29th in the league in yards per carry allowed against running backs when they do run out of shotgun. So I'm hoping that the Bengals actually keep this thing going, and they do incorporate this as part of their offense, where they're getting Mixon just not runs under center because they weren't effective. I'm getting him as a huge home favorite, high team total. I'm just hoping to go along for the ride. I need him to score some touchdowns finally, though.
So that's the other thing. Regression has certainly got to fall in his favor moving forward. If he continues getting the same usage that he's gotten in the red zone and inside the 5-yard line, there's no way that he's going to score in 10% of those carries. It's just not humanly possible. Like, he has to fall forward at some point. You not answering means that you don't agree, that he has to not fall forward now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like he's definitely due regression, but like the NFL is weird. Like, sometimes we chase these things in the midst of a season, they never happen, right? Like, and we recalibrate, we try to adjust over the season. Like, sometimes just stuff doesn't make sense over this goofy 17 games these teams play.
I turn right into the skid.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to score a lot of points in the Falcons. I think the Bengals will score a lot of points as byproduct. Typically, the way you play, like huge home favorite, running back, catching passes is still involved in the goal line, even though is not fallen over the goal line just once on the season. That eventually those things are going to come into place, right? And I do believe that Joe Mixon is going to start scoring fantasy points eventually.
I think that's fair. You want me to pick my last two since I'm already right here?
Sure, go for it.
All right. I'm going to do something that I never do. And that is I'm going to pick two running backs from the same game. I never do that. But like Dameon Pierce is just going to get so much volume. There's nobody there. They have resigned themselves to the fact that they have a rich man's James Robinson as a rookie. And they're just going to load this kid up with as much usage as they possibly can. Touchdown in 3 straight games, but it's not that is attracting me here. It's the 11 targets on top of all of the usage on the ground in neutral game script situations. Now, Las Vegas, they're favored in this game. The game is on the road. They're a middling defense against opposing running backs, which is fine. Pierce has really passed the eye test, and he's somebody that I dig a lot. We were drafting him a ton. Smiz Gang in our Discord for the entirety of draft season, as well as when he started climbing, he was still a value at like 90 and 75. And he climbed all the way to like 50 at that point. So we have him collectively as a community as a big value. And this Indianapolis offensive line has just been straight garbage. So give me the Titans defense, assuming that there's going to be an awful lot of pressure. That is the one thing that I like to attack, is the ability to pressure opposing quarterbacks. I'll pay up a little bit to get the Titans there. Couldn't quite get where I wanted to get unless I came down to like the Texans D, the Panthers D, or the Seahawks defense to get up to like a $7,100 Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I took a little bit of a different route with the last 2 picks on this. So coming back to you, you have a quarterback. He is 6,300, and he's
6,300, man. I built the stack, so I might as well complete it. I'm gonna take the see if the witch is still gonna haunt me this week. So yeah, I'll take Brady. Like I said, I mean, this team has really kind of swerved into the past the last couple weeks. They are one of the most pass-heavy offenses. They just haven't closed drives. They've been in the red zone 9 times the past 2 weeks, and they have 3 touchdowns. Like Tom Brady right now has a 3.2% touchdown rate. He's had over 6.
So what would his expected touchdowns be? Do you have that? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but like you usually have everything. So I figured you'd know.
Yeah, I mean, I do have his expected touchdowns right now. Again, it would just be everyone's favorite part of like the podcast or show where I just like click on some buttons and I have to look it up. But let me talk about Brady while I do that. But right now he's a 3.2% touchdown rate,
which is ridiculously low for people who don't understand.
Over 6% the past 2 years. Now, maybe he doesn't get back to 6%, but I guarantee you when we close the book on this season, it won't be 3%. So yeah, expected touchdowns for Brady. I have him is that he should be at 10.4. So he's 2.4 touchdowns short, passing on the season. So it could be worse, could be better. But remember, for a month, they were just a run heavy offense because they didn't have any wide receivers.
Yes.
Now, the Tom Brady the past 2 weeks is a little bit different.
The last 3 weeks, including the Kansas City game when he had both Godwin and Evans.
We threw touchdowns that game.
Yeah, threw for 385 that week, 351 against Atlanta, and then kind of pooped on the field against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that last week was a little bit disappointing, not just because of the survivor angle, like I said last week, and I got, but yeah, this team has really struggled to run the football the entire year. It's where I think the offensive line changes that they've had has really been like the biggest issue, is trying to run the football. You got to stop running the ball on first down so damn much. That's for sure. We need that to change. But this was a direction that I wasn't fully like planning on going to. I was fine just having the Bucks pieces. I think the Millie Maker winner a couple weeks ago had Josh Allen and just $3, right? Like it was a Brady stack, but without Brady.
Right. The Brady-less stack.
Yeah, the Brady-less stack. So I would be fine going that route too. But the direction I got kind of pushed into going with just the 2 front-end running backs, Mixon and Barkley, kind of pushed me in this direction. I was looking at potentially going with like a Mahomes Debo build. A naked Mahomes, but just with Debo coming back. Because I think that 49ers game could be like have a little bit of shootout potential too. At the state of the defense the 49ers have right now, just all the injuries they have. But
Cash games are always fine. You don't have to stack in cash games. So like,
yeah.
having that naked quarterback is always fun.
Yeah, we'll kind of just go with Brady here, and I'm gonna hope for some of that regression, and we'll close the book. I need the touchdowns to go to K. Dot and Godwin, and not to Leonard Fournette.
I need 3 Leonard Fournette rushing touchdowns.
Right.
So Reeves ends with Tom Brady, Ken Walker, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Godwin, Pierce, Otten, Mixon, and the Jets defense. That's a very good team. I have Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, Lockett, Dobbs, Gallup, Dulcich, Pierce, and the Titans defense. Leave a comment down below with who you think is going to win this week, and look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.